Teer coming to you live for the Built Ford Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network. And wherever you are on the free Odyssey app. Good Tuesday morning. Interesting day yesterday. We were sitting here during the Brian Daboll and Joe Shane press conference, and Brian Daboll said, well, we expect to and hope to have both the coordinators back, and Wink Martindale and Mike Kafka. And then all of a sudden in the afternoon, you find out that there's a couple of assistants that get fired off of Wink Martindale's defensive staff, and then bang, Wink Martindale resigns. So there was a lot of chatter about Wink and Brian Daboll's relationship, and apparently that had a lot to do with what happened yesterday. So that was a surprise. Of course, the national championship game last night, the Michigan Wolverines win their first national championship since 1997. So now Jim Harbaugh can cleanly get out of there. He did what he came to do, and he's going to go to the NFL, I'm sure. And you had more Jimmy Kimmel, Aaron Rodgers that will continue today. Jimmy Kimmel responds last night. Aaron Rodgers will respond again today on the Pat McAfee Show. And the round and round we go on the hamster wheel of turds. Good morning, Boomer. How are you? Good to have you back.
All right, yeah, good morning, G. To give you an update, I did come down with COVID last week. I had not been vaccinated. This is the third time that I came down with COVID, as you guys know, because you've worked with me since 2020, since COVID arrived on our shores. I initially got vaccinated, I got the booster the first year. But then I said, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just going to fight through it, and whatever it happens, it happens. And basically it happened, hit me on Friday. Had an IV doc, boom, lickety split, took the Paxlovid, boom, took that, minimized my symptoms. Saturday and Sunday were not a lot of fun. I did not want to go to Sunday's work and get anybody sick that was there. My doctor told me, he says, probably not a good idea to do that anyway. So I wanted to make sure that I protected the guys that I worked with. Started to feel a lot better Sunday night. My fever and everything had gone. Woke up yesterday, was still a little tired, and felt like I needed one more day. And today I'm here, and I'm feeling a lot better. It doesn't sound it, but I do feel a lot better. And, I just got through it. That's all I can tell you. So to each their own out there. I fought it off 3 times. Once I got vaccinated, then I got boosted because I had to in order to go to work when we originally were going through all of that stuff. But since that time, I've dealt with it twice, and it hasn't been all that bad. It feels like a mild case of a bad flu. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like, because the aches, the pains, the fever, the chills, and the congestion. And luckily for me, unlike Phil, who does not, I don't know what was wrong with Phil on Sunday. I think he just lost his voice. I actually came down with it. So, and everybody was very supportive. Everybody was great. I got the chance to watch the NFL today for the first time in 22 years. I'd never missed a show.
What'd you think of it?
I thought it was. I couldn't believe how fast it went by. It goes by like nothing.
Yeah.
And then I find that the one day that you want to be in prime time, they're leading up to the Golden Globes. They end up staying on. And I'm not there. I'm not there to help the guys.
Well, you'll get your chance during the Super Bowl to get those eyeballs back on you, right?
Yeah, well, I'll be ready to go again this week, as we obviously have one playoff game on Sunday at 1 o'clock. So I'm looking forward to get back to work. But, it was kind of weird just sitting there watching it for the first time in 22 years. But I'm glad I'm back, and I missed you guys yesterday. Yesterday was an important day in the NFL. And as we move forward here, we're going to find out more and more and more and see whether or not, the predictions of one Adam Schefter and many of us who feel like there's going to be 7 to 10 jobs open in the NFL, and obviously the biggest one being New England and what's happening up there, and nobody really has a real sense of where they're going with this, and there's all sorts of rumors coming out of New England right now, so we'll see what happens. But I do know one thing. Knowing these job openings and what's going on, if I had to rank the job openings right now, and Oakland has not been given to Antonio Pierce, so essentially that's Vegas, still right? Open. Vegas, Oakland. Vegas is still open. I would say that the Chargers are number 1. I just feel like, with that quarterback there and everything.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, man, but and I don't like the Bears, but if the Bears were to get open.
But they're not open. But they're not open right now.
Oh, okay. All right,
you're
saying the ones that are absolutely open, not the potential
open.
ones,
right.
Not the potential ones.
I'll get to the potential ones, but right now, as we sit here with the 5 openings that you have, you got to believe that the Chargers is one that any coach in their right mind would love to get their hands on.
Yeah, because of Justin Herbert.
Yeah, that's
and it's
right.
L.A. Fan base stinks, and you're playing in someone else's stadium. But you can win with that quarterback if you have a team around him, and that's what guys want to do. They want to latch on to great quarterbacks in this league, and he's got a lot of potential. The worst one for sure is Carolina. Nobody wants
the
that
worst
job.
one. Yeah, but number two would be Atlanta. And we kind of felt like the last couple of weeks, if Arthur Smith didn't win some of these games, and then, of course, they get embarrassed in New Orleans last weekend, Atlanta's got a good young core of players. They just need the right quarterback down there. And whoever inherits that team, there are some great athletes on that team, both on offense and defense. And if they get the right quarterback, whether it be through the draft or whether they go down the veteran free agent list that will be pretty numerous this offseason, they could turn around that thing pretty quickly.
Yeah, in a division that is generally winnable as well.
Right. Then Oakland, I think there are some really good
You're
players
going Oakland
there.
again here.
I mean, Oakland, Vegas. I think Vegas again. I'm sorry if I make a few mistakes today.
COVID fog?
COVID, maybe.
Could be. COVID brain?
Could be. I'm going to try not to have that today.
You were blaming this on long COVID now?
I got my 5 hour energy, my Celsius, my coffee. I got it all going on this morning.
Good.
All right. So then it would be Vegas would be the next one because you have a pretty good defense there. There are some good pieces there, assuming that they keep Devontae Adams. They, too, have to figure out their quarterback situation. I'm not so sure that they believe that it's Aiden O'Connell or whoever goes in there, whether it be Antonio Pierce staying there or anybody else. Then Washington. Now, what Washington's doing is very interesting. You know, the bureaucratic there's something about Washington, D.C. It's just like, just keep adding people. Just add more people and more people and more people and just pile people on top of people so nobody can ever really come to a consensus decision. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
And
Yes,
that's what
I'm
Josh
following
Harris
you.
seems to be doing. I'm going to hire this guy. I'm going to hire that guy. I'm going to bring this guy in. We're going to have this group over here. We're all going to come together. We're all going to sit around. We're going to have coffee, and we're going to talk about all these different avenues we can go down to, and whether or not you can ever come to a consensus in that kind of situation is beyond me. And then, of course, Carolina, yes.
Yeah, Carolina, a miserable job. And if you think about last night and how this ties all together as Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines, they win the national championship. And he flirted with the NFL a couple of years ago with the Minnesota Vikings. They decided, I don't really even know the full story there. If they didn't make him an offer, it wasn't enough money, or he decided just to go back. But now here he's going to go again. After he said, that was it, I'm done with the NFL, I'm closing the door. This season happens, he gets suspended twice. It's the perfect time to leave in a crazy collegiate athletic landscape right now with the nil money and everything going crazy. He delivered the championship to him. He's going to go, and I believe he will go. I'd be surprised if he did not. And David Tepper is going to be the guy that is going to give him everything he absolutely wants and probably the biggest salary. And if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I don't fall for that. I don't do it. I don't go there. I don't touch that job with a 10-foot pole. And I would go, if the money was less and I even had to work with a general manager, and I know him and Trent Baalke back in the day hated each other, and he's got to get a guy that he likes, I would still go to a place like the Chargers, or if the Bears ends up being open, I would still go somewhere else other than Carolina, even if it was the best deal by 50 times the money. I'm not going and working for that maniac down there. Hell no.
And, I'm sure John Harbaugh, his brother, will be in his ear, and I'm sure Don Yee, right?
Yes.
His new agent will be in his ear about what the parameters should be and what they need to be. Yeah, but Tepper would be crazy enough to sign for like a 10-year deal.
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, and you can't. You want success and you want to have success, and many owners, as we have seen throughout the years, just don't have the patience. And I would think that which is amazing because he has a losing record, but I'm always preaching some sort of stability. And the Jets are trying to do that. They're trying to do that in the face of all the losing that has gone on since Rob Saleh has been here. So I can appreciate trying to keep it together if you can, assuming that your most important part is going to come back and he's going to be motivated and is going to be healthy, and that's, of course, Aaron Rodgers. But that guy down in Carolina is not that guy. That guy is not a patient owner. That guy, as you could see, throwing drinks on fans. I mean, that is like a warning shot across the bow. Now, somebody will take the job because there'll be probably a coach that doesn't have any experience that would love to be an NFL head coach because there are only 32 of them. But I think that Jim Harbaugh, the thing about it, and you pointed out, if Chicago somehow comes open, they are moving on from Justin Fields and they are drafting Caleb Williams. I'm telling you that.
Yep.
I've been telling you that, and I'm going to continue to say that. As much as Justin Fields has gotten better, he's not Caleb Williams. They'll put Caleb Williams in there. They'll surround him with all these great players because they'll have money. They'll reset their quarterback contract, and they'll trade Justin Fields, and they'll get something back for him. Man, and I think that they could be set up for the next 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, which is a scary thought for someone who roots for another team in that division, and I was hoping that they would stick with Eberflus and Field. It's not going to happen. I was hoping that they would win that game against the Green Bay Packers just for that reason. Maybe it would confuse the people there in Chicago and they'd make a bad decision, but they are not going in that direction. And I would not be surprised, too, that if Jim Harbaugh said to this back channel stuff happens and coaches, they say, I respect the position and this and that.
All these guys on the Giant staff were probably making calls.
Oh, of course.
Probably with about 6 weeks to go in the season, and maybe Brian Daboll got wind of that.
And I would not be surprised that something like this happens where Don Yee, who's Tom Brady's agent, is now representing Jim Harbaugh, just happens to call the brass over at the Chicago Bears, the ownership group, and say, hey, I got a client here who's interested in that job. If you were willing to be interested in him, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, bing, bang, boom, then we're going to keep Eberflus. We're not keeping him anymore. Now Jim Harbaugh's there at a press conference with Caleb Williams.
And by the way, there's even a bigger fight going on out there. Forget about the football team for a second. It's the organization. The organization wants to move out of Soldier Field. And, that is a huge political fight going on right now, to the point where I do believe, I don't know, somebody put out a rendition of a new Soldier Field that has a dome on it and everything. And I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a political fight going on out in Chicago. And if you want to win that fight, you got to win the hearts and minds of the people. And the way you win the hearts and minds of the people is you bring somebody in there, whether it be Harbaugh or whether it be Belichick, and you draft Caleb Williams. Now, all of a sudden, you got the hearts and minds and fans on your side.
Yeah, and Bill Belichick said something yesterday that he has never said, and all the guys that cover Bill Belichick and have been in all the press conferences, they all put this out there yesterday. A word or a phrase came out of his mouth that he has never, ever referenced in his entire time there as Patriots head coach. And that was, I'm under contract. He actually said something about his contract, which he's never done, which makes it interesting because he's basically saying, like, listen, I can't go anywhere right now unless they fire me. It's not like I can leave here and do whatever I want because my contract is up. There's things that have to be worked out if I am going to leave here. And, there could be a trade, there could be this, there could be that. But, I mean, he did – it's significant. He said that for a reason yesterday.
Yeah, I feel like he wants Kraft to fire him.
Yeah, to let him go.
Or to have a mutual parting of ways without any compensation going back to the Patriots if Bill Belichick ends up going somewhere else to coach. Like, in other words, it's not going to be, okay, you can leave for a year, but you can't go anywhere for a year.
Yeah.
It's not going to be any of that stuff. I mean, Belichick will either force him to fire him or they'll have to sit down and they'll have to come to some sort of agreement. There's also, word out of New England, would Bob Kraft, want Josh McDaniels back as the offensive coordinator and have him run it back that way. And, there's all sorts of things now coming out of there. But I would think that we'll have a pretty good handle on something here within the next 2 weeks. That's what I feel like. And by the way, you start looking at all of these interviews that are being set up by these teams. I mean, the Panthers, I think, have like 20 different people on their interview list, both for GM and head coach.
Yeah, I mean, that guy is David Tepper. He's got to somehow prove to somebody of worth to be that head coach, and I don't think he's going to be able to do it this time around. It's too fresh with the way that he's fired everybody else. The drink throwing thing. I mean, I just, if I'm someone who's got experience in the NFL, and this isn't my only shot or maybe first shot, I'm not working for him. So it's just, that's going to be very fascinating. See, general manager too. I mean, general managers, is probably closer and dealing more with the owner than even the coach is because of, the coach, at least during the game and on the practice field, is there and he's talking to players. The general manager sometimes just got that owner riding them like a jockey on a horse.
Yeah.
That person's not going to like it. I'm with you. I think there's going to be people with no experience ending up taking that job because they're going to be like, hell, this has been my dream and he's going to pay me a bunch of money.
When the owner says to the general manager, we're taking that person number one overall. That's who we're taking. I don't care about what anybody else says. That's who we're taking.
Oof,
and then you take the job, and you're supposed to be there making those decisions. And the owner is, all over you. He is a hedge fund guy. He is not a football guy. He may be around football. He may be a football fan, but that doesn't mean he has the ability to make a decision. I know it's his money, and he should have the right to make that decision. But at the end of the day, if you hire somebody as your general manager, you got to let them do the job. You got to let them make the decision. And if the decisions don't work out, then you fire them. That's all there is to it. But you got to be able to hire people and let people do their jobs. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and he does not seem like a guy that would do that.